So as I was reporting out this book, I learned that staff in the White House residence would periodically find the toilet clogged. The engineer would have to come and fix it. And what the engineer would find would be wads of, clumped up wet printed paper, meaning it was not toilet paper. This was either notes or some other piece of paper that, they believed that he had thrown down the toilet. What it could be, Brianna, could be anybody's guess. It could be Post-its, it could be notes he wrote to himself, it could be other things we don't know, but it certainly does add, as you said, another dimension to what we know about how he handled material in the White House. We have known for several years, since my colleague Annie Carney broke the story, that Trump was ripping up pieces of paper and that his staff was having to tape it back together for archival purposes. This is how he has handled documents and pieces of paper all his life in terms of ripping them up. But this was something different, and it was not, as I was told, an isolated incident.
There you have Maggie Haberman of the New York Times. She wrote a new book called Confidence Man, and apparently you saw her break it down there. Some of the things that she is reporting for sources told her for that book about Donald Trump, apparently flushing printed documents down the toilet. Obviously, Donald Trump responded by denying the allegations. Let's listen to part of what he said. You could probably quote it yourself. Another fake story that I flushed papers and documents down a White House toilet is categorically untrue and simply made up by a reporter in order to get publicity for a mostly fictitious book. There must be something there that he likes, because it's mostly fictitious. It's fake news, except for like that one account on page 37. So by the way, we do know there's been a bunch of books that have been talking about the things that Trump has gone through, and many of those things don't stick, or it's a news cycle or two, or lasts for a week. Donald Trump denies it like he did here, because fake news, fake news, fake news, fake news. But his former communications director did say this book might hit a little different. Watch.
I will say this, though. I still talk to some folks in Trump world, the ones who've not engaged in criminality, and I will say that
how many is that?
He or she will
not be mentioned.
The former president is terrified of Maggie Haberman's book. This is the first big anecdote,
really?
but there is quite a bit more to come.
He's not terrified of Peril by Bob Woodward? That one didn't care about.
This one's the one he's the scariest. She's covered him for decades. I'm very interested to see what else.
Maybe. Maggie Haberman doesn't seem to be holding many punches, that she never has with him. And if she's been covering him for this many years, maybe there's more things that she knows in there. But again, 5 people are gonna read, I won't say that. A limited number of people will read the book, and everyone else will report on a few excerpts here or there. Now, Rick, before I let you jump in, this did blow the lid off of potentially why Trump had an issue in his bathrooms. Watch.
People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times. As opposed to once. They end up using more water. So EPA is looking at that very strongly, at my suggestion. It's the shower, it's the sink, and the third element in the bathroom. But I don't say it, because every time I say it, they only talk about that one. Because it's sort of gross to talk about, right? So I won't talk about the fact that people have to flush their toilet 15 times. Okay? I will not talk about it. I'll only talk about showers but there is 3 things. I won't talk about it. This way they can't report.
When is the last time you heard Donald Trump go so hard to say, I'm gonna change regulations here because of what happens in your homes with your water pressure? Does he care about whether or not what's going on in your homes with your wages, maybe with food scarcity, stuff like that happens in people's everyday lives? This is an everyday life thing. If he's worried about water pressure, it goes back to everything else with Donald Trump. It's about him.
Yes. This reminds me of in crime documentaries where a criminal will leave a clue because it's the thrill of the chase. He's basically, in my eyes, sort of confessing in order to continue the thrill of the chase out in the open. You're making a damning case here, Jayar. I don't know how exactly to interpret it other than that. But just to go back to a few other things, this is a man who is very unhealthy. So while I do say yes, he probably did do this because he's just that maniacal and that much of a criminal. This is also a guy who said I love Mexican people and took a picture of a humongous taco bowl. So part of the time it could be, hate to say it, because of what he ate, because he has a very poor diet that some of these toilets did potentially clog. To go to that the View video that we played, like Trump is terrified of this book. Trump is terrified he's terrified of everything. Like the only reason that he keeps covering up for a previous crime is to continue criming. So then we talk about the previous crime. So then he could talk about the next crime, and we talk about that crime while he's doing another crime. Like he said the same thing. Oh, come on, man. Like he always, these always come out with the book. Like he's terrified of the Woodward book. He's terrified of the Wolf book. He's terrified of the Bolton book. Like, and also her framing of like the ones who didn't do the criminaling.
She was part of it.
Wild thought here, wild. If you were involved in that administration, you did some criminaling. You did some serious criminaling.
Even the people who were following behind him, maybe he said, I didn't flush those things down the toilet. I told a couple of aides to do it. Then the plumber had to find it next to some feces.